Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with Wario or From and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. My name is Emily Carter and I live in Amityville, New York. Yes, that Amityville, the place everyone whispers about when they talk about haunted houses. Babysitting around here has always been a little creepy, but this job felt wrong from the very start. It was a last-minute call from a woman named Mrs. Halpern, who sounded desperate and almost panicked when she asked if I could come over that same evening. I had just finished my evening classes at the community college and needed the money, so I said yes without thinking twice. The drive there was unsettling. The streets were unusually empty for a Friday night. Every house I passed looked dark, as if the whole neighborhood had gone to sleep early. When I pulled into the Halpern's driveway, the house looked like it had been frozen in time. It's an old two-story place with peeling paint and a large oak tree that cast long shadows across the yard. Mr. and Mrs. Halpern greeted me at the door, both of them looking strangely tense. Mr. Halpern kept glancing over his shoulder, as if he expected someone or something to follow him inside. He gave me instructions quickly, almost in a whisper. "Don't let Sophie stay up past 9, he said, "and whatever you do, don't let her talk to the man in the hallway." I laughed a little, thinking it was some weird small-town joke, but the look in Mrs. Halpern's eyes made me stop smiling. "We mean it," she said quietly. "Keep the lights on upstairs, Al." Before I could ask what they meant, they left, practically running to their car. I stood in the doorway for a moment, feeling the weight of their words. Inside, the house was eerily quiet except for the ticking of an old grandfather clock in the hallway. Sophie was sweet and shy, with dark hair and big brown eyes. She greeted me with a small wave and went back to coloring at the kitchen table. I tried to shake off the strange feeling and make the evening feel normal. We played board games, ate some mac and cheese, and watched a cartoon movie. But I couldn't ignore the cold draft in the house. No matter how high I turned up the thermostat, the air felt icy. Around 8:30, Sophie suddenly looked toward the dark upstairs hallway and said in the softest voice, "Can I say goodnight to the man in the hallway?" My stomach dropped. I tried to keep my voice calm and asked her who she was talking about. She just pointed up the stairs, smiling slightly. There was no one there. I decided it was bedtime and walked her upstairs. The second floor was even colder than downstairs. As I tucked her into bed, Sophie asked again, "Can I at least wave to him?" I told her no and tried to keep my tone light, but inside I felt my heart beating faster. I went back downstairs and sat on the couch, scrolling on my phone to distract myself. The house was so quiet that every creak of the floorboards made me jump. Then came the sound. Soft, slow footsteps from upstairs. I froze. Sophie was supposed to be asleep. I grabbed my phone flashlight and crept upstairs, calling softly, "Sophie." When I peeked into her bedroom, she was sleeping peacefully, the blankets pulled up to her chin. That's when I saw it. The hallway light was on, even though I was sure I had turned it off earlier. I switched it off, went back downstairs, and tried to convince myself it was just my imagination. But out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement. A tall shadow at the top of the stairs. My heart skipped a beat. I grabbed my phone and crept upstairs again, whispering Sophie's name. Then I heard it. A low male voice right next to my ear, whispering, "She can see me tonight." I ran into Sophie's room, scooped her up, and bolted into the upstairs bathroom. Locking the door, my hands were shaking as I dialed the Halperns. Mr. Halpern answered on the first ring. When I told him someone was in the house, his voice turned cold and serious. "Do not leave the bathroom. Do not look at him. We're coming back right now. Whatever you do, keep Sophie with you." Before I could ask what he meant, he hung up. For the next 15 minutes, all I could hear were heavy footsteps pacing outside the bathroom door. The doorknob rattled once, twice, and then there was a laugh. Deep, guttural, and completely inhuman. Sophie didn't look scared. She just whispered, "It's okay. He just wants to see me." I covered her mouth and tried not to cry. Then everything went silent. I leaned toward the keyhole to listen, and that's when I saw him. A tall, pale man stood at the end of the hallway, facing the bathroom door. His body was impossibly thin, his limbs too long, his head slowly tilting side to side. His face was blank, as if he didn't have eyes, only dark hollows where they should have been. When I blinked, he was suddenly closer, right outside the bathroom door. I backed up, clutching Sophie tightly. The light above us flickered, and I heard a whisper from the other side, "Open the door." I don't know how long we stayed like that. Me holding Sophie, staring at the door, waiting for it to open. Finally, the front door slammed open, and I heard the Halperns shouting my name. The pale man vanished, muttering something under his breath, while Mrs. Halpern hugged Sophie tightly and cried. They didn't ask me what I saw, they already knew. Mr. Halpern handed me twice the amount we had agreed on and thanked me for keeping Sophie safe. As I was leaving, Mrs. Halpern stopped me at the door. "Whatever you saw tonight," she said quietly, "don't talk about it. Not to anyone. It makes him stronger." I drove home in silence, shaking so badly I could barely keep the car on the road. Even now, I dream about that hallway. In my dreams, the pale man is always there, standing perfectly still, just waiting for me to open the door. And every time I wake up, I can still hear the faint sound of footsteps pacing outside my bedroom. Story number 2. My name is Rachel Miller, and I live in New Orleans, Louisiana. I had been babysitting for a few families in the Garden District for extra cash, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened that night. I got the call around 6 p.m. A man named Mr. Lambert said they needed someone, immediately, because their usual sitter had canceled last minute. He sounded calm, but strangely insistent that I come right away. I agreed, thinking it was just another job. Their house was huge, one of those old Creole mansions with tall windows and iron balconies. The moment I stepped inside, the air felt heavy, like the house was holding its breath. Mr. and Mrs. Lambert looked exhausted, like they hadn't slept in days. "Please keep the doors locked," Mr. Lambert said before leaving. "And if you hear the piano start playing, get the baby and go into the basement until it stops." I almost laughed. "The piano?" "Yes," he said flatly. "Don't open the front door for anyone, even if it sounds like us." Before I could ask more, they left. The baby, Claire, was asleep upstairs. I sat in the living room, scrolling my phone, trying to ignore the way the old house creaked. At first, everything was quiet. Then I heard something faint. A single piano key, pressed slowly, coming from the music room down the hall. My stomach dropped. I walked to the music room, trying to convince myself the sound was in my head. The room was empty. The old grand piano sat in the corner, covered in dust. But just as I turned to leave, 3 notes played in a slow, chilling melody. I backed out of the room, heart pounding, and ran upstairs to check on Claire. She was still asleep, but the rocking chair in her room was moving slightly, like someone had just stood up from it. I grabbed Claire from her crib and held her tight. That's when I heard the front door knock. "Rachel," a woman's voice called. "It's Mrs. Lambert. Let me in." I froze. She had said not to open the door for anyone. The knocking grew louder. The voice grew more urgent. "Rachel, please. Open the door, there's something in the house." I almost went down. Almost, but then the piano started playing again. Faster this time, like frantic, jagged notes slamming together. Claire woke up and began crying. I ran to the basement and locked the door behind me, just like they told me. The basement was cold and smelled like earth. There was a single light bulb swinging above me. Upstairs, I could hear footsteps. Too many footsteps, like more than one person was walking through the house. Then came the sound of someone laughing softly, followed by the piano slamming its keys all at once. The footsteps came closer to the basement door. The doorknob turned slowly. Then I heard a whisper through the cracks. "Give her to me." I held Claire tighter, trying not to make a sound. For nearly half an hour, whoever, whatever, was upstairs walked back and forth, tapping on the walls, scraping their nails down the door. Then, as suddenly as it started, it went quiet. When the Lamberts finally came home, I was still in the basement, crying and holding Claire. Mr. Lambert pulled me upstairs and checked every room, but the house was silent. "We told you," he said grimly. "It always comes when we're gone. It only wants the child." Mrs. Lambert thanked me and paid me triple what they had promised. Before I left, she said one last thing. "If you ever hear piano music in the night, no matter where you are, Dan T. listen. Don't follow it. It will know you remember." I never went back to that house, but sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I swear I hear those 3 slow notes again, as if the piano is calling for me. Story number 3. My name is Jessica Reed, and I live in Denver, Colorado. I've always been good with kids, so babysitting was my go-to side job. One Friday night, I got a call from a new client, Mrs. Walker, who said she needed someone right away to watch her 8-year-old twins, Ava and Mason. She sounded calm, but there was something in her voice, a shakiness, like she was hiding how scared she was. When I got to the house, it was beautiful. A new build in a quiet suburb. It's not one of those creaky old haunted houses you'd expect. That almost made me feel safer. But then Mrs. Walker gave me one very strange instruction before leaving. If the twins knock on their own bedroom door, she said, do not let them out. I laughed, thinking she meant they were mischievous and might try to trick me. She didn't laugh. They have to stay in there after 9 o'clock, she said seriously. Even if they say they're scared, even if they cry. Before I could ask why, she and her husband left. The twins were friendly and playful, running around the house, showing me their toys. Everything was normal until bedtime. At 8:45, I tucked them in and said goodnight. At exactly 9:05, I heard a knock on the bedroom door. "Jessica," Ava's voice called softly. "We're scared. There's someone in the room." My heart started to race. I almost opened the door, but I remembered what their mom said. "You're okay?" I called back. "Just stay in bed." There was silence. Then a second voice joined in. But it wasn't Mason's. It was deeper, older, like an adult trying to whisper through the cracks. "She's right," the voice said. "Stay in bed. Don't open the door." I froze. The knocking stopped, and I heard footsteps moving around upstairs. I grabbed my phone to call Mrs. Walker, but the line went straight to voicemail. Then I heard the twins laughing. Not in their room. But from the end of the hallway upstairs, when I ran up to check, the bedroom door was still shut tight. Something banged hard against it from the inside, and both kids screamed in unison, "Let us out." I backed away, my hands shaking. Then, behind me, I heard 2 sets of footsteps running down the hall. The sound of children's feet, bare against the wood floor. But no one was there. The banging stopped. The hallway fell silent. And then the door slowly creaked open on its own. The twins were sitting perfectly still on their beds, staring at the corner of the room. Their eyes were wide, unblinking. "Ava, Mason," I whispered. They didn't look at me. They just said, in perfect unison, "He's awake now." Suddenly, every light in the house flickered and went out. I grabbed the twins and ran for the front door, but it wouldn't open. The deadbolt had locked itself. From upstairs came the sound of something big moving, dragging like heavy furniture being pushed across the floor. Ava clutched my arm. "He doesn't like it when we leave," she said softly. I ran to the kitchen, found the back door, and forced it open. The second we stepped outside, the lights inside the house all turned back on. The parents pulled into the driveway at that exact moment. Mrs. Walker's face went pale when she saw the twins outside. "You open the door," she asked, her voice trembling. "They were terrified," I said, still shaking. Mrs. Walker looked at her husband and whispered, "Now he knows." They paid me, thanked me quietly, and told me to never come back. I thought that would be the end of it. But 2 nights later, while I was trying to sleep, I heard soft knocking on my bedroom door. When I opened it, no one was there. But faintly, from somewhere in my apartment, I heard 2 children giggling.